I was everything the church needed. I was in the choir. I was a teacher. I showed up to everything. I was at rehearsals. I was at the revivals. Everything you could think of to be at, I was there. I was a church soloist. And now looking back on it, it's like, honey, it doesn't matter what you do. You could paint the whole world gold. And because you're gay, it still don't mean shit. When I had graduated high school and went to college, I came back to visit the church, and I had a friend who was over the children's ministry. So a few weekends I would come to the church I grew up in. I'm helping her set up for the kids, and she pulls me to the side. And she says, Daryl, I don't know how to tell you this. And I'm like, tell me what? What's wrong? I don't want to say who, but somebody said they feel uncomfortable having you around the children. So I'm offended. I'm like, me? Someone's offended having me around the children. I'm like, I have never done anything. I have never, I've never, what? I'm like, well, who said that? Like, I grew up in this church. And she's like, well, Flower said it. I'm like, Flower? Why would Flower say something like this? So now I am just like completely offended. Like, me, nice Daryl, who was a children's church teacher, you're offended. So I go to my mom. I'm like, Mom, just so you know, this is what somebody said. So I'm driving and she's like, pull the car over. I'm like, okay. She said, who was it? I was like, that's Flower over there. Let me go talk to her. So my mom gets out the car and she goes to talk to her. So she says, Flower, you're a mother and I'm a mother. And you know somebody talking about your children is just, you wouldn't do that as a mother, would you? So Flower goes, I ain't say nothing about your children. I ain't say nothing. I'm like, Flower, you did. It's okay. I ain't say nothing about him. I ain't say nothing. So now it's getting more excited, right? And I'm like, Flower, you know what? I was like, Mom, listen, it's okay. It's all right. I don't want no faggots around my kids. So there's a pause because I'm like, oh, I'm the faggot. Like it all just clicked in that moment. I'm not kidding. I'm like, oh, it's me. You don't want gays around your kids. And I'm the gay one. Wait a minute, I'm gay. Oh, it's me, I'm gay. Fight breaks out. The pastor pulls us in the office and he sits us down. And he says, everybody's not saved in this church. If you'd have done anything else but be gay, maybe I could do something. But the fact that you're gay, I'm sorry that this happened to you. I'm sorry that you had to experience this, but I can't do anything about this. That's really what it came down to. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, angels could come down while I'm singing, right? And sit on everybody's lap and give them $100 bill. And they'll still be like, Daryl, you're gay. You're going to hell. That was great singing. And we thank you for the angels. But the word of God says you're going to hell. So, and people will say like, oh no, Daryl, you're wrong. But that's the truth, right? At the foundation, at the fundamental helm of Christianity overall, if you're gay, you're not inheriting the kingdom of God. And that like sat with me. I have a breakdown. I'm just crying. I can't stop crying. I call the church. I drop out of everything. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not in the ministers group. And one of the ladies, she says to me, well, you don't have to be in the group, but I better see you at church every Sunday, right? And I said to her, thank you for your concern, but my mental health is more important. So I'm gonna do what I feel needs to be done. I can't even have a conversation with my friends. I'm like, I don't know if I believe in God. And they're like, what? You don't believe in God? What? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I believe anymore, which to me was the beginning of me really finding God. I turned to God and I'm like, I don't know if I believe in you. And I feel like the response was, okay, let's start from ground zero. And so I was able to decolonize my mind and let go of the beliefs that I had and start from ground zero with my relationship and who I call God. And I feel like that relationship, much like a romantic relationship, is something private between me and God. It's not for public consumption. It's not for debate. We put it on a chopping block to be this main course to be slaughtered. And that's just not the way that I live. So my relationship with God is beautiful. It's beautiful because it's not judgmental. It is easy. I can breathe in it. Everything is God. When we talk about energy, that's God too. All of this is God. It is something so big, yet so small at the same time. Prior to deconstruction, being on this side, there was a lot of depression, there was a lot of anxiety. I would define deconstructing as looking at your belief system and breaking it down. Breaking down a lot of the constructs and a lot of the beliefs that you have and really challenging them. Like, church had me judgy. And I think the fact that in the back of my head, I thought homosexuality was wrong. So I always found something wrong with every relationship. I was terrible in relationships. Like, I thought I was good, but like personally, like, there were times I was a bitch. I had one guy, we were dating, and he was taking a test to be an HIV/AIDS counselor. And he goes to me, I got kicked out of the class because we cheated on the test. And I was like, you cheated on the test? He's like, yeah. I'm like, why would you cheat on the test? I don't know. I was like, you know, we're gonna break up, right? He goes, you're breaking up with me because I cheated on the test? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, if you cheat on the test, what else will you do? I can't believe you're breaking up with me over a test. I'm like, yeah, it says a lot about your character. And I broke up with him. Having healthy relationships, having healthy sex, being gay, I didn't learn how to be healthy in those arenas. How heterosexual people have the time to date and have your first boyfriend and your first kiss and all these different things growing up, being gay and growing up in church. I didn't have the same luxuries of growing up like, oh, it's my first boyfriend, or I feel like I'm figuring out a lot of stuff now versus earlier. I don't know if I know how to love or be in a relationship, but I know that I'm open and willing to learn. For a long time, I didn't believe I was good enough to be in a relationship or that I was good enough to be loved. I think the biggest thing that I don't talk about and I haven't had to talk about is being HIV positive. And there's part of me that's struggling because I've never been open or public about it. There's part of me that is still scared of the judgment a little bit. When my mom passed, I went to the funeral in Canada, and my mom had a car that they had let me drive when I went to Canada, but they said as soon as you're done driving it, we need the keys back because everything goes into probate and nothing can be touched. So my brother, he's like, well, give me the keys to the car. I was like, well, I can't give you the keys to the car. I have to give it to this person. He says, if you don't give me the keys to the car, I'll tell everybody you have AIDS. So I had to do what I felt was right and tell everyone myself so that I could take the power back from that. And maybe even in this moment, I'm taking the power back. Growing up in church, it really made me hate the most beautiful, innocent part of me. And I think I spent a long time looking for love from other people. Just looking for people to care about me, even in men, and trusting people. For so long, I've used my talents and I've used my gifts as a way of protecting myself. My brother doing that to me was probably one of the most hurtful things I've experienced. It just felt like a knife cut through me. So for a long time, I felt alone. For a long time, even with dating and relationships, I think there's part of me that's always felt like I'm a damaged good, or there's something wrong with me. You know, no one's gonna want me. Different things like that. Growing up in church, you judge yourself so harshly. I know it's me judging myself, but that's the culture and the upbringing that I come from. Christians are taught to suffer. Oh, you're going through it? Oh, good. That means there's a blessing on the other side. Or you're struggling, you're sacrificing. Oh, that means God is using you. So that internal thinking is something that I'm working on letting go of and letting the good in. My final word is grace. It's something that I learned in church, but didn't experience until I left church. Grace is something that is throughout the Christian faith. Amazing grace. Oh, grace, 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 grace. But the act of grace, I don't think is practiced in church. I think we're taught grace in church. For me, I'm experiencing grace now, outside of church. And it's not from others, it's from myself. My mom used to say to me, Daryl, to whom much is given, much is required. And you've been given a lot. And I hated that for a very long time. Because I was like, what the hell? What? So because I've been given a lot, now I have to do something more? Like, what does that mean? But now I feel like I've been blessed. Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul.